Let's start with this whole Sam Bankman-Fried arrest, because the whole thing stinks to high heaven, which I imagine is what his hair must smell like too. Anyway, we're going to show you in a minute how bad this thing stinks. But first, some context on SBF. In early November, we learned that the $30 billion FTX empire, led by the little crypto golden boy who everyone loved, Democratic funder Sam Bankman-Fried, was just a house of cards. I mean, it was sitting on, it was just a house of cards, came crumbling down. Though to outsiders who weren't really paying attention, it seemed like, oh, this came out of nowhere. But to people that knew Sam Bankman-Fried, who knew what he was up to, knew the game that he was playing, this was always going to happen. There were warning signs all over the place. Gary Gensler, warnings that happened right under the nose of this guy, Sam's friend and associate, Gary Gensler. He's the head of the SEC under the Biden administration. Odd that one of the Democrats' biggest donors would be overlooked by the SEC.
Yes, I would say that's a coincidence.
It looks like he could have got away with it, too, if it wasn't for those pesky kids. Mm. He looks like one of those unmasked guys on Scooby-Doo.
He does. Oh, those pesky kids. So that was early November, and a lot of us were wondering when exactly was Sam Bankman-Fried, who was holed up in the Bahamas, actually going to be arrested and indicted. Well, that moment finally happened last night. So Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested shortly after 6 p.m. at his apartment complex, a luxury gated community in the Bahamas. The Southern District of New York brought the criminal charges initially. These were the initial charges, which could amount to over 600 years in jail.
Now, we reported recently that the Bahamas was going to fight the United States for jurisdiction over who was going to actually investigate this case. But the Bahamas, the Bahamian prime minister, released a statement with the indictment saying, it's okay, you guys, you can take him. We're going to do our own thing. We're still going to investigate, but yeah, go ahead. The Wall Street Journal and the New York Times had sort of warmed us up saying this is going to be a big jurisdiction fight. The Bahamas is not just going to let the U.S. have this guy. Right. I guess that was not true.
No, apparently not, because the criminal charges, including in this whole thing, I went through it this afternoon, and all of the different lawsuits include wire fraud, conspiracy, securities fraud, and money laundering. Earlier in the day, he showed up on a Twitter Spaces interview where he said he didn't think he was going to be arrested. He's no soothsayer. Because it was like just a few hours later he was arrested. But the timing of all of this is pretty darn fishy, because in less than 24 hours, Sam Bankman was set to testify before Congress. Now, this is the big question. So why the hell would authorities swoop in less than 24 hours before he is set to spill the beans in front of Congress? Testimony that could be used against him later on. So Congressman Lee Zeldin is pissed. He wants to know why. He tweeted this. Tomorrow, Sam Bankman-Fried was scheduled to testify in front of the House Financial Services Committee, was ready to grill him 6 ways to Sunday. Now, breaking tonight, SBF was just arrested.
Yes, you make a good point, because whatever he said in that testimony could absolutely be used against him in a case. Yeah. So if, in fact, the Justice Department wanted to indict him, they should have just let him speak, because without this forthcoming, he would absolutely have been less careful. Yeah. They would have so much more to work with. Why would they purposely handicap themselves in this way?
Yeah, and then
because there's probably names that he could throw out that would be implicated, like they don't know, like he's a loose cannon right now to them, so he could implicate a bunch of people and completely take it to a whole different place.
Yes, yeah. You have to think they're protecting people because they've weakened their own case.
Right. And so Lee Zeldin finished that tweet off by saying, why not allow him to testify first tomorrow and answer our many questions? Great question, Lee Zeldin.
Well, he won't now. And his lawyers would say, no, we're going to plead the fifth. There's no lawyer. In the same with the Trump case, when he was about to testify on the deposition for the attorney general in New York City, in New York, and he was going to. Right. The raid on his home came just before that testimony. And he said, sorry, I have to plead the fifth because I cannot incriminate myself in one case that could be used against me.
So something really fishy going on here, guys. I mean, really fishy.
If I were his attorney, the things that I'd be requesting, make sure the cameras on his cell are working and make sure the guards are awake and not reading magazines.
Well, I said earlier, I didn't say this to you guys right now, to the thousands watching us, but I wrote it down because I'm going to say it later. I think he's being Epsteined. Like, I think he's being silenced. And you're exactly right. Like, make sure there's cameras on in this cell because of who he knows. That's why he's being silenced. And even Maxine Waters, who initially didn't even want to talk to him, Democrat Maxine Waters, issued this statement just a few minutes ago. Following news that Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested in the Bahamas, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, released the following statement. I'm surprised to hear that Bankman-Fried was arrested in the Bahamas. It's about time the process to bring Bankman-Fried to justice has begun. However, the public knows my staff and I've been working diligently for the past month to secure Bankman-Fried's testimony before our committee tomorrow morning. We received confirmation this afternoon from Bankman-Fried, and as lawyers, he was still planning to appear before the committee tomorrow, but then he was arrested. They deserve to hear him publicly, she says. Why? I'm disappointed we'll not be able to hear from Bankman-Fried tomorrow. We remain committed to getting to the bottom of what happened. So then Mr. John Ray III, who is now the new CEO of FTX, testified before Congress today. And he's basically like, we don't know that any money is going to be able to come back to Americans who lost money. We think some of it might, but we don't know. A lot of this money is commingled. We don't know. So that's all they got.
For her, there's more than just a missed opportunity to grandstand, which we know that these congressional committees, they have subpoena power, but they don't have any power to bring anybody to justice. They only make recommendations based on what they find. So a lot of it is just grandstanding, them asking tough questions and looking tough in order to endear their voters. But she's a different story because she was such a big recipient of his donations.
Right.
And so even before this arrest, she had been trending because people said she should absolutely recuse herself from this investigation. She should not be heading the House Financial Services investigation about this because she's compromised.
Well, and you remember at the beginning of this, she wasn't even going to have him come to the testimony.
No, her language was very much like not that interested, but it's on the table.
Yeah, we don't really need to talk to him. We just want to talk to people around him. Oh, really?
Well, then was this a subpoena? Because wouldn't a federal subpoena override a state subpoena? Like, couldn't they? Like, how could a federal government not request a state?
I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how he was subpoenaed in this. Like, he was asked to testify before Congress. So I don't know if that's a federal.
So it's just
subpoena.
a voluntary. Yeah.
Basically, it's a voluntary thing. From what
Until
I
it's not, because that's what Steve Bannon was indicted on, because he refused to testify.
Right.
So they invite and then they subpoena.
Then they compel.
And then yes.
So it would seem like if they really want him to be there, then they could subpoena him and it would supersede the state having him, I would think.
Well, there was not a subpoena, it seems.
Yeah, but at this point, now it's going to be hard to say. Now they're sort of turning it over to, because now it's criminal. So now these charges are criminal. And earlier this morning, we had a sealed indictment. So this was the attorney for the Southern District of New York. Earlier this evening, Bahamian authorities arrested Sam Bankman-Fried at the request of a government based on a sealed indictment. We expect to move to unseal the indictment this morning. And then, of course, now we have. So that was this morning. Now we know what's in these indictments.
You said Bankman-Fried.
Bankman-Fried. Yeah, I hate people with three names.
Well, that's why most news articles refer to him as SBF. So let's just heretofore it's SBF. So U.S. prosecutors on Tuesday charged SBF with 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. You can read their lawsuits in multiple locations. The Securities and Exchange Commission also then sued SBF. So separately. So you have the Southern District of New York doing it. Then you have the Securities and Exchange Commission, Gary Gensler, not to be like, oh, now he gets in on it at the last minute. And then the Commodities Futures Trading Commission also sued SBF, a separate indictment, as well as FTX and Alameda Capital. So anyway, lots of lawsuits. One piece, though, I'm not going to go through all of them, but one piece that I found really interesting is the campaign finance part of the indictment. This is count number 8 of the indictment, and you can read it here. Count number 8, conspiracy to defraud the United States and violate the campaign finance laws.
from at least in or about 2020 up into including November 2022 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, SBF, the defendant, and others known and unknown knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together with each other to defraud the United States in violation of Title 18. And willfully, knowingly did combine, conspire, confederate, and agree together with each other to commit offenses against the United States by engaging in violations of federal law involving the making, receiving, and reporting of contribution, donation, expenditures in violation of Title 52. Campaign finance laws.
Okay.
You know what that sounds to me? It's like, hey, he sent us a bunch of money. We didn't know. Like, what were we supposed to do? It just showed up in our accounts in our super PACs. It wasn't our fault.
Right.
Like, it sounds like they're trying to make excuses.
Well, who's reporting? Did he not properly report campaign donations? That doesn't seem likely because he was reporting it all over the place. He was flaunting it,
right.
Taking pictures with congressional leaders. So was there a way that contributions, donations, or expenditures were funneled to these politicians that was not reported by them, or that was some type of favor without a favor? Right? Like we've talked about, a lot of that money went to Ukraine. Did it then come back around to politicians? These are important questions.
If the indictment is on him, if the indictment is on him,
right,
and no Congress people are named, then it has to be what you said first, which him not reporting it or him not doing something.
Right. And will they end it? This is where I'm getting to the Epstein part of this, right? The silencing of this guy, because this is the Southern District of New York. Remember, this is like Democratic headquarters, Southern District of New York, right? This is the heart of it. This is the heart of the liberal movement. This is heart of Hillary country here.
Yes.
So, are we going to get an honest investigation of this?
This is the office that went after Martha Stewart.
Yes, this is the office that went after Trump.
Yes.
Continues to go after Trump. So are we going to get something fair here in the Southern District of New York? I'll leave that for you to decide. Brad Sherman, though, Democrat of California, one of the crypto industry's loudest critics on Capitol Hill, Democrat, today went after FTX chief executive John Ray, who was there. He was turning over documents and could help with law enforcement about the collapse of the crypto exchanges. He says that I hope you will turn over a list of major bonuses and loans so that law enforcement can piece together when those loans or bonuses were made and whether they immediately processed this guy, meaning SBF's campaign contributions. So they want to know, like, where do these campaign contributions go? Where do they flow to? And we'll find out. I mean, and if campaign laws were violated. So violating campaign finance laws, according to the Wall Street Journal, U.S. prosecutors are looking into this. The indictment on Tuesday, whether or not and how some of his money flowed to some of Washington's biggest donors in U.S. politics. And then, of course, there's the giant Ukrainian question, right?
Yes.
And where that money was being laundered from Democrats into Ukraine and then back into Washington again.
Because it was only 6 months ago that we were congratulating FTX for setting up crypto donations into Ukraine directly into the Bank of Ukraine.
Not us, but other people were congratulating.
Right. We collectively, the media.
Right. Like, oh, he's such a golden boy. Like, he's fantastic. That sounds much better, David. Thank you. Fixing my audio. Or whoever is. So there's a nameless mouse moving across my screen. I don't know who's in there manipulating it, but thank you. So perhaps
it's me.
They won't. It's not you. It's me. Perhaps they won't let him talk because of his deep connections to the Democrats and the SEC's Gary Gensler. So this is where this gets really incestuous and interesting, right? We're learning this morning that Gensler, who's a former Goldman Sachs executive, Obama administration official, Clinton's 2016 campaign CFO, and FTX associate, Sam Bankman-Fried friend and associate, and essentially had two different calendars that he was keeping. We're learning this from a Freedom of Information Act request that he's been scrubbing his other calendar of past appointments that he's had. Trying to hide that.
Who is it that puts nefarious calendar appointments in writing? Don't you just remember that shit?
Like Tuesday, honey, I can't go to that lunch. Tuesday at 10 a.m., I got a lunch with Hitler. So I can't,
Okay.
That's on my calendar here. I'm putting that on my calendar.
All right.
Here.
I was going to go slash tires.
You put that's Thursday at 4 p.m.
Yes,
slash
that's
tires.
what I was going to do.
Saturday at 1 a.m., rob a bank. Okay. Yeah, so these guys are freaking idiots. But he had two calendars, one that was like his public one, and the one where he was like keeping his nefarious shit. According to Fox News, who uncovered this through a Freedom of Information Act request, they found that he was keeping, now he's going back and scrubbing a whole bunch of high-profile meetings that he's been having, namely one Hillary Clinton. That's just one, and we're going to find out more of who he's been meeting with over the past year and a half. Congressman Emmer also has a few questions for Gary Gensler as well. Congressman Emmer tweeted this: interesting that Gary Gensler runs to the media while reports to my office allege he was helping Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX work on legal loopholes to obtain a regulatory monopoly. We're looking into this. So wouldn't it have been great to hear from SBF publicly in front of Congress so we could get answers as to how cozy were you with the SEC chairman? What was he informing you about? What were these meetings looking like about these regulations that he was helping you avoid? So he was right about this, because instead of getting to the bottom of this, Gensler ran right to television that very morning. I remember this happening, to cover his own ass. So here is Gensler that very morning on CNBC shortly after this news broke. Like, I'm ready for my cameras. Where's my cameras? CNBC, watch.
Lots of questions this morning for you about what is happening. And so let's just start with, what do you know and what are you investigating?
Andrew, as you can imagine, and your viewers know that I can't speak about any possible investigations, but let's step back and say what's happening.
Because let me just stop there for a second.
It's
because I can't speak to you about any possible investigations yet, because probably there are none at all. We're shit. Now we gotta cook one up really quickly.
Really is old as finance and as antiquity. When you mix together a bunch of customer money, non-disclosure, and leverage, borrowing against it, and inside these companies trading, investors get hurt. And I think just looking at what we see in the press, if I can stay with that, just Andrew.
Oh, so just what we learned in the press. That's what I can't talk about all of our big investigations that we're currently working on right now.
Then why do we have you on? Because we are the press, and we've been presenting those things.
So just
Thanks for telling me what we've been reporting.
Just what I saw this morning on your show while I was getting ready in the green room having coffee. That's all I can talk about. I can't talk about these big investigations that I'm working on. Wink, wink, wink.
This story has been going on for many months. You remember the collapse of Terra Luna and a bunch of crypto lending platforms. Well, it looks like in the last few days, this is all interconnected. This is a very...
So under your watch, Mr. Gensler, one of the largest crypto collapses, Terra Luna, happened months before this. And they're connected? It looks like now they were connected? Why didn't you stop it? If you have the wait a minute. This is connected? You're telling us, but we don't have no evidence of that. So when you guys didn't investigate that and that happened on your watch, so what the hell? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
Interconnected world in crypto with a few concentrated players at the middle. And one of those concentrated players had the toxic combinations of lack of disclosure, customer money, a lot of leverage, meaning borrowing, and then trying to invest with that. And then when markets turned on them, it appears that a lot of customers lost money. And that's where our mission is about those customers.
Yeah, now it is. Now that all that money's gone. Now that's our mission. That's our mission now that all that money's gone. So Gensler not only failed to spot the crime, he appeared set the whole time to go along with the legislative strategy that would have given SBF regulatory protections in all of this. According to reports in Forbes, the reason behind SBF's decision this summer to obtain control over BlockFi, the other one that just went bankrupt, was to benefit from the troubled crypto lenders' recent settlement with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So it would have a blanket basically extending this SEC amnesty to FTX, because now we own BlockFi. So it would shield him from the SEC essentially and give him regulatory ability to operate inside the United States protected by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, yeah, it's really surprising that they wouldn't let him speak in front of Congress. I mean, Reuters, by the way, got their hands on the testimony of SBF. Like, he was about to give this testimony. Reuters got their hands on it. How the hell did that happen? Did somebody leak it from their side? I mean, what did Reuters break into his computer or his lawyer's computers? How do you have the testimony of Sam Bankman-Fried that he was about to give in front of Congress?
I can't think of how.
Someone gave it to him. Someone either on the SBF side or the Democrats. Someone gave Reuters the testimony.
Yeah.
This corruption goes all the way up. In prepared testimony that Reuters got their hands on, he planned to deliver to the House Financial Services Committee this morning. Fallen crypto prodigy, he declared I want to start today by formally stating under oath that I effed up. Like, that's how he was going to start in front of Congress. And then
does that mean if he had testimony already that he got questions previously too then? Because how would he know what questions they were going to ask him?
Well, I mean,
or you just mean a prepared statement.
I think it was a prepared statement, but that was like he'll open up with a 15, 20-minute speech about,
right.
that. So we have that piece of it. I don't know that we have answers. They may have given him questions ahead of time, like these are things we're going to ask you, so be prepared to answer these. Perhaps. But he did say that he was going to change his mind when he was pressured by lawyers to step down as FTX CEO following the exodus of customer money. He was going to tell Congress today that he changed his mind less than 10 minutes later when he received a sudden potential funding of billions of dollars. Where'd that money come from? I would like to know that. Who, when they see that FTX is collapsing, offers billions of dollars?
Well, okay, but can I just put forth an alternative conspiracy theory?
Okay.
This is theory, okay? But maybe the Justice Department actually got wind that there was an elected official going to try and bail out FTX in order to preclude any kind of investigation. Like, let's prop this company back up so there's no investigation. This is the Justice Department actually working in order to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, but the Justice Department's hands aren't in this at all, are they? It's the Southern District of New York.
But that is
maybe somehow they accidentally
that
thought
is a
he was
branch of the
Zelensky.
Justice
All
Department.
right, I guess okay. But it's not Merrick Garland.
Right, but it could be that they sort of got wind of this and they're like, we can't let this company succeed so that it precludes an investigation because there's too much bad stuff here. We better take it now.
I like where you're going
before
with
this I'm going to say politician character gets in there and bails this company out, and then we've got nothing. They had to take it out of politicians' hands.
Yeah, perhaps. Okay.
And that's the only way that they would have, because otherwise they would know that they're weakening their case, right? And then there's actually like someone doing their job in the Southern District of New York saying, we got to move on this guy or else we're not going to have anything. If he gets customers back their money, then what do we do? Then we've got no case. And then this fraud dies.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a heroic story inside. This is an alternative. We don't know.
Yeah, perhaps. And David, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just saying maybe some of the money accidentally thought he was Zelensky, and it just kind of,
right.
was on its way to Ukraine and somehow just made a side
for
left
all
turn
that's
at
being
Albuquerque.
sent over there, what's a little bit of a chunk out of it?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just to think, so all these Americans are going to lose their money on this. It's like, okay, so the government can prop up and send money to Zelensky where it's just disappearing. We don't know where 20 billion has gone, but there's 7 billion in the hole, and all these Americans like who've lost their life savings because of this guy. Maybe that's something the government could help on, to support, because this happened on their watch. And if Gary Gensler is saying publicly, like, well, this was all connected. Terra Luna, remember that number of months ago? Yeah, it's all connected. Really? Then why didn't you stop
the Pentagon? And the Pentagon recently lost $2 trillion again. It's like they just continually lose money, send money, take money. So it's like there's this big money laundering thing going on, and we don't know who's sending money where. And maybe that's what they're afraid that he would do, is connect those dots. And they don't want those dots ever connected.
But maybe, and I'm just sort of salivating over this big fish story, maybe there was some kind of big politician who was trying to keep SBF out of prison in order to prop up the company so that we wouldn't find what's under the hood.
Yeah.
And, we both read Preet Bharara's book about, he was the head of the Southern District of New York, wasn't he?
Right, yeah.
They want those big fish. Like if there's a big fish
case
doing wrong, they want it. They are motivated by
PR.
sincere.
Yeah.
Well, by PR, yes, but also sincere. Like we want that get. You know, if there's something bad happening in my jurisdiction, they want it.
Yeah.
So maybe we're gonna see a big fish. You know, like let your imagination run wild on that.
Oh, we're just peeling the onion back, but I'm just saying, like, now he's going to be quiet, and now they may plead some sort of agreement where he just goes to prison, pleads guilty. We never hear from him. That's my, again, this comes back to the congressional testimony piece. Like, you should have let him speak. We could have had all of these answers publicly in front of Congress, but we don't get that now. And so will he be Epsteined? Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at Redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to Redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.